Hi guys, CyborgMatt here at Seattle's Key Arena for the International 2014. I'm joined here by Greg, aka WhatIsHip. How's your international experience been going?
It's been really great. I got to work on the panel during the playoffs, which was really cool. I've never worked on a panel before, and of course I got to work with James, which is always an experience. I got lured into some jokes. I think that's sort of a rite of passage when you work with James, but now the main event's here, so I'm just basically a spectator. I get to watch the games and hang out with everyone, which is really nice, and there's been some good games so far, so I'm looking forward to it.
So you won't be making a cameo on the panel at all?
Not as far as I know. I think it's possible, but it's not planned.
Okay. So in terms of playoffs, that was your first panel experience. I mean, how is that like working in front of the camera, working with, I guess you have like production in your ear maybe, dealing with James?
Well, it's a lot different. I'm used to casting, obviously, so that's, you have to worry about what you're saying. Working on a panel, not only you have to worry about what you're saying, but also everything that you're doing. So for the first 2 days, it was pretty stressful. I just wasn't really used to having to deal with every mannerism that I make, every move that I make. Everyone can see that. So first couple days, it was really stressful, extremely tiring. It got easier, though, as we went on. James was extremely helpful, just with tips with dealing with the camera and making it so you weren't, looking straight at someone. You get, very severe profile shots, especially on the desk we were using. So James was actually super helpful through that whole thing. But, of course, James is also James. So, I got lured into a dick joke, which was completely unintentional. But like I said, I think that's just kind of what happens. But it was really nice. I got to work with Shiver, obviously, Alan. It was his first time on the panel as well, Draskell, and James. So I really liked it overall. I definitely would like to do more of it in the future. It's a lot different way of thinking about Dota, because when you're casting, you're really, you're trying to fill space with pertinent information. But on something like a panel, you're really just trying to fish out the most important things about the game, which it's a lot different. You're more of a high-level overview and trying to figure out really what made the difference. So I really liked it. It definitely helped a lot in terms of my analysis for normal casting. So it was kind of nice. I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed it.
It's good to hear. And now this is obviously the first time we've had everyone over here for the playoffs. Historically, for those that don't know, they basically casted from the studios back home and then came over here for the main event. Were you happy with the selection of talent brought over? It seems like almost everyone was brought over, and it seems like everyone's had a good time.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have, sort of everyone here, and it is necessary to really have this enormous amount of people because there's so many games going on, and you can't have everyone doing everything all day because it's, doing this stuff is enormously tiring. So it's definitely been nice to have everyone here. We rotate a little bit, and we also, of course, get to see people that we don't get to see that much. Obviously, LANs are the only time we really get to hang out IRL with a lot of the other casters and talent and stuff like that. So it's definitely nice to have everyone here, and I think everyone's appreciative of Valve sort of making the group stages a little bit of a bigger deal, a bigger production, and I think people really enjoyed it. So it seemed good.
So in terms of preference for the future, would you prefer to be casting or analytics or on a panel, or what's your,
I'm not sure. I did really like doing the panel. Of course, I really like doing casting too. It's it's a different kind of energy when you cast. It's more for me, it's more of a nervous energy. It's, you get really excited. Panel is much more calm, cool, collected, and much more, like I said, heavy analysis. So I really liked doing the analysis. So I think I'd like to do more of that in the future, but I think I would also like to cast as well. So it's kind of I like both.
That's good to hear. Now, you've had a lot of other projects going on. Your most recent one's High Ground TV. Can you kind of explain to the viewers what your plan is for that project and plans for the future?
So High Ground TV is a small casting group that me, Mott, and Kato Guy sort of started, and we all were individually casting. Majority of our casting was contract casting for Join Dota, Beyond the Summit. We were kind of just mercenaries for when people needed, casters and didn't have people in their studio. So we formed together sort of as a way to establish yourself as a brand that's larger than our own casting identities, which has been really nice so far. I mean, we did the American Dota League Season 2, and then moving forward, we're going to be doing the Canada Cup, which is a little bit of a smaller tournament, and then we also have another tournament in the works for the fall, which is going to be pretty big. So should have most of the Tier 1 teams in it. Pretty excited about it. But basically, it was just a way for us to consolidate our brands together. And it's definitely worked. I mean, people, we got invited in the international, so it worked, I guess.
So historically you cast a lot of American Dota, especially you mentioned that we had on TV, you know, the Canadian Cup coming up. Do you want to focus on just American Dota? I know you guys are really knowledgeable in that area. Would you prefer to do a bit more European Dota, maybe some, you know?
I mean, all three of us really love American Dota, but we also do really enjoy casting the Europeans. I mean, a lot of them have a much different play style. It's nice to sort of expand what it looks like, you know, seeing the different teams. We did a lot of Chinese casting for Beyond the Summit, like overnight. So I think it's always good when you can just spread the amount of their casting over like different areas. You learn a lot more, because if you only cast NA Dota, you know, you come to a team like Navi and you might not be as knowledgeable about their picks and their general playstyle, which oftentimes obviously, you know, gets transferred across regions. So I think the more regions you can cast for is much better.
What's your opinion on the American scene so far? Obviously, we still have EG here up in the tournament. Liquid kind of put a shocker on everyone, and you know, exceptionally well in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, even NAR did pretty well up till the last day. They kind of just like petered out a little bit, and they had a rough last day. But I mean, overall, I think most of us are pretty happy with where the American scene's at, especially compared to like last year. I think the teams have gotten a lot better in America. EG, like you said, they're, I mean, top tier team, one of the best in the world. Team Liquid have been playing really well. Of course, you know, there's been a lot of talk about all the drama around them and stuff, so we'll have to see, I guess, what happens to those players. But I'm pretty happy with where it's at. Obviously, the more growth, the better. And I think these bigger online tournaments definitely help, because the biggest problem is obviously the living expenses in America are like hugely high. It's much higher than, you know, Europe, or, well, not all of Europe, but some parts of Europe and things like that. So these bigger online tournaments help a lot with that growing, and we've been seeing more and more and more. You know, the American Dota League was a fairly small tournament, still had a $10,000 prize pool, so it's good to see these tournaments growing, and hopefully NA Dota next year will be even better. But
so let's pedal back a bit to the playoffs. Were you kind of surprised by any results there, or is this the top 8 you're expecting to reach the main event?
Obviously, Alliance getting knocked out seemed unusual, but I mean, if you like look at their results, they were just an extremely average team. They lost to 9 of the top 10 teams, and they beat everyone else. So they were just right in the middle of the pack, so I guess, you know, the results sort of expected. But I was definitely surprised by that coming into the playoffs. Seeing how they were playing was not nearly as good as we were expecting, I think. Also, a bit surprised by NAR's first couple of days. I know that they had been scrimming a ton, but I did not expect them to have such good results. I think a lot of the games they lost, they easily could have won. It was just like small mistake in play, small mistake in draft. And this format is extremely unforgiving in terms of the draft. Like, well, I should say this patch. It seems like if you lose the draft, it's just impossible to win, which is not, you know, which makes sense. But in past patches, that wasn't always true. It wasn't like if you lost the draft, you just screwed. But in this patch, it seems like if you lose the draft, it's just over. Like a lot of the results we've been seeing at the international sort of suggested that. But I think that's the biggest surprise. Team Liquid obviously doing well was a big surprise as well, and I'm sad that they didn't make it into the top 8, but they still had a fairly good run considering all the changes and drama, and you know, they didn't really have a boot camp. So
you have a lot of tournament experience under your belt. How do you rate the format this year? It's kind of a pretty interesting format. I know a lot of people last night it was a bit weird aura, like, you know, we had a grand finalist already after day 1. It was a bit weird.
Yeah, I think I like the first part of the format, like the round robin, transitioning into the elimination of the bottom 6 teams, the bubble bracket. I think all of that is fine. I'm not a huge fan of having a grand finalist on day 1 because, I mean, I guess there's kind of 2 ways to look at it. On the one hand, a lot of the like build up to that grand finals is already done because you already know half of it. But on the other hand, what I really like is, I mean, newbies got a target on their head now. Everyone knows who the final bosses of the internationals. So I think on one hand, I really like that. But maybe if that was like today, it'd be a bit better. It feels like today is like, you know, we have a couple elimination games and then there's a couple games that don't matter. They split those best of 3s, which is really weird. I don't understand why they did that. I guess it's to have elimination on both days, but I remember last year, the team who won the first game on both days immediately lost the next 2 on the next day. So maybe that's because of the way they did the format, but overall I like it. I think the round robin is definitely, it's really nice, better than the best of 2 groups. So it's okay. I mean, there's some things I like about it, some things I don't like about it. Overall, it's good though. I think it's very fair, at least.
And we've also seen you at a number of internationals now. How are you rating the Key Arena compared to Bannerall Hall and just overall Key Arena experience?
Yeah, I went to TI2, TI3, and now TI4. TI4, when their games are going on, I actually really like the arena. It's like the crowd is so loud. It feels like the event feels like really grand, which obviously it is. But in between games, I don't like it nearly as much because it's kind of harder to like go out and just hang out with people. That was part of the appeal for Benaroya, is you just like walk out of the hall and everyone we want to talk to is sort of there. But I think it's, you know, it's necessary, obviously, right? Because it's full here, so they could even go bigger probably. But I think they've done a good job making it still feel, you know, kind of intimate. They got all the workshop area, the lounges and stuff like that. So, I mean, I like it. It's a necessary growth. I think I probably like Benaroya a bit better, but it's nice.
Okay, so can you see the international staying here for a while then? At least, you know, a good couple more years?
I mean, they could probably go to a bigger venue. The problem runs into, like, you still want to do it around Seattle. The options are very limited. Like, this is a pretty big arena, and obviously you kind of have to have it at a place where the roof closes or it has a roof. So I could see it staying here for a while. I mean, I think it's a good place. It seems to be working out. It definitely handles the traffic a bit better. The secret shop, there's still a long line, but, you know, it's still much faster than last year. So overall, I think it's fine. You could definitely stay here. I like it.
So in terms of the top 8 here, we have 5 Chinese, 2 European. Well, we couldn't call Cloud9 European for this, and North American team EG. Were you surprised at how many Chinese teams have got through this year, or is it kind of like it seems to bounce between the two sides every year?
The first 2 days of the playoffs, I thought there was not going to be a lot of Chinese teams at all in the top 8, but it seems like somewhere along the line they definitely figured out this draft format much better than a lot of the other teams. Newbie especially, their drafts are almost always perfect. Like, EG lost game 2 yesterday because their draft was just worse. Yeah. Like, absolutely 100%. They had that last pick, Wraith King, just did not really work out at all. And as a result, you know, it just didn't work out. So I think given that the Chinese teams have figured out the draft format so well, I'm not surprised to see them, but they definitely made a lot of changes from the very beginning of the playoffs. You know, LGD, they got destroyed the first day of the playoffs, and they turned it around really well. So not surprised given how they developed, but when I came into the tournament, I would have been surprised if you told me there would be 5 Chinese teams in the top 8.
Do you think the newbie could have got a better, more coverage on their storyline? I mean, they did actually play a free best of threes, come all the way from, you know, the phase 3, and they actually struggled in the first part of the playoffs, and now they're in the grand finals. Kind of, a lot of people were really unexpected by that result.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you think about the storylines of this international, there's just, it's not that they have like a, you know, a bad storyline or something, but there's some really amazing ones with Team Liquid coming out of the wild card, Fnatic obviously with all their issues with Era, and, you know, I think Newbie's just not really a fan favorite for whatever reason. They're not like DK, they don't have like the star power of DK, they're not an American team, so, you know, here in America obviously they're not as popular, but I don't know, I mean, they perform really well. Their drafts are really on point, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of disappointing. People just seem to really not like that team, but they're performing well, so that's what it takes to get to the finals, I guess.
So as someone who's handled tournaments in the community, are you worried about the international getting so big? $10.8 million, prize pool's now $5 million for first place.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, obviously, it's great that we have this huge, like, world, like, just huge prize pool. It's ridiculous. Like, you can't even describe how big it is. And on the other hand, like, this tournament casts a huge shadow over the scene. Like, 2 weeks before, it's a complete disaster. Like, we had all these lands, everything got changed. You know, ESL was supposed to be in the middle of July, it got moved. The MLG got canceled. After the tournament, there's a huge team shuffle. No one plays for a month. So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, teams play for this event, for better or for worse. Like, this is the event that every team wants to win, you know? It's like the only thing, really. So, I mean, I love the international, but it's unfortunate to see it sort of, you know, the scene just forms around it, for better or worse, I guess.
Do you think we can top it next year in terms of money?
Probably. I mean, more and more people are playing Dota, especially from events like this, so I could definitely see it bigger next year. I mean, the way that Valve did the compendium this year is very conducive to having just a bigger prize pool. You know, being able to level up the compendium is better than buying an extra compendium, obviously. So another innovation like that could easily, I mean, 15 million, 20, who knows? I thought it was going to be like 6.5. That was kind of like, at BTS at the house, we had like a little discussion about what the highest prize pool would be, and someone said $8 million, and like, that's ridiculous. Like, no way. And it's like 10.8. It's like, okay, well, I guess we were all wrong. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Speaking of BTS, you guys have worked close with them, you know, all 3 of you individually, and now, even as High Ground TV, you've worked close with them. How does it like, how's the experience working with BTS, and is it good that we have more organizations over on this side of the pond compared to Europe?
Yeah, I mean, working with BTS has been good. They give us a lot of good opportunities. You know, games that we might not otherwise get to cast. We came over to the NA Hub, stuff like that. And working with them is nice. I mean, they're a juggernaut in the scene, like, right? It's them, join Dota, but in Good Studio. But Good Studio mostly just does DreamHack, so that mostly leaves Beyond the Summit and join Dota to cover all the other tournaments. So it's nice for them to be able to, you know, embrace another organization like ours. They've been really great for us and sort of passing along tournaments our way. So it's been really nice. They've all been really good. We lived there for a couple weeks during the NA Hub, and they're a great bunch of guys, and it's fun to hang out with them. So we're thankful that, you know, they are so nice and giving and things like that. So it's good. I like working with them.
All right, thanks, Greg. And before you go, just give a shout out to your fans, and where can they find High Ground TV, and, you know, tease them for that tournament upcoming.
So you guys can follow me on Twitter at WhatIsHip TV, and thank you guys for everyone who came up and talked to me. I took pictures with a lot of people, taking selfies with people, pretty fun. Got to do that a couple times, and I really appreciate if you guys do watch our casts, and you can find them at highground.tv, and that's also what we will be announcing, hopefully, this tournament in the fall with some more details soon.
Soon TM?
Yeah, soon TM, exactly.
All right, thanks, Greg. And that's it for On Gamers. We're here all week, so stick with us and subscribe to our YouTube.